In the barren deserts of Yemen, a story is still whispered around campfires, a tale of a boy born on the night of a black storm. The elders say that storm wasn't just wind, it was the beating of wings. The newborn, named Samir, took his first breath as thunder cracked the desert sky in two. Inside the tent, women assisting the birth gasped as lantern flames danced wildly, even though the room was sealed tight against the gale. An ifrit passed by tonight, one old woman whispered, her voice trembling, and had looked upon this child. She was right. From his very first week, the signs were undeniable. Samir's cradle would rock on its own, a gentle, rhythmic motion in a room with no breeze. As a toddler, he'd giggle at empty corners, his bright eyes tracking shapes no one else could see. A strange phenomenon followed him everywhere. Tiny piles of desert sand would inexplicably gather around his feet, even indoors, as if drawn to him by some invisible force. Then, at just 3 years old, he spoke a sentence that chilled his grandmother to the bone. He looked at her with his innocent eyes and said, "I share my head with someone older." She froze, her heart pounding. "Who? Samir, who is it?" He whispered back, his voice barely audible, "The one made of smoke and fire. And he is always hungry." As Samir grew, so did the shadows that clung to him. The disturbances became more pronounced, more unnerving. Goats would bleat in raw terror and strain at their ropes whenever he walked past their pens. Torches and oil lamps would sputter and die the moment he entered a room, plunging it into sudden darkness. Villagers started noticing footprints appearing in the sand beside his own, but these were not human. They were long, slender, and ended in what looked like claws. One sweltering afternoon, a traveling merchant heard Samir talking behind the family's home. Curious, he crept to the corner of the clay wall and peeked around. Samir was sitting alone in the sand, tracing patterns with his finger, but he wasn't talking to himself. A second voice was answering him. It was a deep, ancient sound, rasping like burning coals, a voice that carried the weight of centuries. The merchant's blood ran cold. He looked again, his eyes scanning every inch of the empty space. No one else was there. He fled, not even stopping to collect his wares, the horrifying disembodied voice echoing in his mind. The night of Samir's 12th birthday was the night everything broke. The village fell silent as strange sounds began to spill from his family's home. It was an argument, a voice fighting with itself. One was high and childish, filled with fear, Samir's voice. The other was low, monstrous, and rumbling with power. His mother collapsed against the wooden door, her hands clasped in prayer, sobbing and begging Allah for mercy. From inside, the boy's scream tore through the night. "I don't want to hurt them." It was answered by that terrible rumbling reply, a voice that seemed to shake the very foundations of the house. "You are mine. I was in you before your first breath." At that moment, the floor began to tremble. Sand, fine as dust, started pouring from tiny cracks in the walls, as if the desert itself was being summoned to enter the house. The village imam, a man of great faith, gathered the bravest men, and they pushed the door open. The scene inside stopped their hearts. Samir was standing in the middle of the room, his eyes rolled back completely white. A vortex of sand spiraled around him, a miniature cyclone of shimmering grains, and behind him, a shape was forming from the swirling dust and shadows. It was a towering silhouette with eyes like burning embers, horns that seemed woven from smoke, and a body that shifted and writhed like fire trapped in darkness. "The Ifrit," it hissed, its voice a symphony of sand and hate. "The vessel is almost ready." The men screamed and fled into the night. Only the imam remained, his body shaking but his voice steady as he began reciting holy verses from the Quran. The Ifrit recoiled as if struck, letting out a deafening shriek that sounded like tearing metal. The shadowy form shattered like burning ash, and Samir collapsed to the floor, unconscious. For days, the boy slept, caught in a feverish dream. When he finally opened his eyes, his first words were a weak whisper, "Did he leave?" The imam, who had not left his side, placed a calming hand on the boy's shoulder. "For now, child." For now, Samir's gaze drifted down to his own feet. A small mound of sand had already gathered on the blanket around them, and as he watched, it trembled slightly, as if something just beneath the surface was breathing. And in the heavy silence of that small, dark room, the imam heard it, a faint, distant whisper that came from nowhere and everywhere at once. "I am still hungry."